But
thank you. Nelson Rossing, thank you very much. Now, before we went to bed yesterday, something that had been in the news had been confirmed, at least per a letter that was widely published that has not been disputed as yet from the presidency. If you recall, almost 2 weeks ago, this news of Ofori-Atta being reassigned, that had not been confirmed at the time. At least the confirmation letter that we have of his appointment has a different portfolio, but the reassignment is there. Yeah, there you have it. So this is a letter dated 15 February 2024, Office of the President, appointment as Senior Presidential Advisor and Special Envoy for International Finance and Private Sector Investments. And bear in mind, the date you see there is instructive because the reshuffle was done on the 14th of February. President Ofori-Atta reshuffled his minister on the 14th of February. Then, the next day, after Ofori-Atta was relieved of his post, he's been given this new position of, it's quite a long one. Took me a while to memorize it. Senior Presidential Advisor and Special Envoy for International Finance and Private Sector Investments. Let's go on to the telephone. Professor Bafo-Agyeman-Duah is a governance expert, a former advisor on governance to the United Nations. He's joining us on the telephone. Professor Agyeman-Duah, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us on Key Point.
And good morning. Thanks for having me.
Now, this letter that we have, and I'm sure you've seen a copy of, this was just a day after Ofori-Atta was relieved of his position as finance minister. He got a new appointment the next day. I mean, how does that strike you, especially taking into consideration the conversation about he being relieved of his position finally after all of the calls by even MPP MPs and what this means in terms of the optics for government. Now, just a day after, not knowing he had been reappointed.
Well, let me be clear on this. The president has not committed a crime by making that appointment. The president has not breached any law by making that appointment. And therefore, I think he used his power, the constitution, which the people have given him these kinds of discretionary powers. So he has done nothing wrong. Nonetheless, and this is a big nonetheless, in exercising that discretion, presidents are expected to be circumspect in making such decisions, especially when there is a groundswell of public sentiment against this particular issue. So it was important for the president to have considered the context of the changes that he was making. So if he have relieved the man of his appointment, substantive appointment as finance minister, and appointed his deputy in his place, and then you turn around to make the former minister your senior advisor, and more importantly, special envoy on international finance and capital markets or something like that.
Private sector investment.
It seems to me that the new role of Mr. Ofori-Atta could supersede the exercise of power of the finance minister. Because if you look at it, during all these 7 years, the former finance minister has been quite prominent in utilizing capital markets in managing our finances, to the extent of borrowing, hitting the ceiling, and Ghana being stopped from further borrowing on the international market. Of course, if we still have some arrangements that he thinks he can do, let's face facts. God forbid, if he's incapacitated, wouldn't there be anybody to play that role? But more importantly, if the country is going to negotiate for the capital markets or any financial dealings with any of these IFIs, will it be the finance minister who has that mandate to lead that charge, or will it be the new special envoy who will have to lead the charge? So it seems like the new appointment somehow overshadows the role of a substantive finance minister. And given that the current minister was his deputy over the years, then again it raises questions in terms of the comfort level of the new minister making certain changes or certain decisions in his role. So it really complicates the role of the minister. That's why I said from the beginning that even though the president has the authority, the prerogative to make all these appointments, after all, he decided at one point to appoint 120 ministers, nobody could challenge him legally. So he has that prerogative. But I think that he's created a conundrum for the finance ministry, the way Mr. Ken is going to perhaps supervise the work of the ministry. Because the ministry of late has been engaging more in international financing arrangements, more in capital markets, the bonds and all that. And if he's still going to be the special envoy, then I'm not sure how the new minister's authority will be exercised.
See, so your analysis is that, at least with this portfolio, from the governance perspective, is going to give Ken Ofori-Atta more executive power over and above that of the finance minister, and that has its own, at least, evident ramifications.
For sure, because you see, if you're a special advisor to the president, in a way you are much closer to the president than a minister.
Sure.
Because his offices, technically, will be located at the Jubilee House. It can be anywhere, but it will be under the Jubilee House. And he will have direct access to the president, not the minister. The minister will have to call for some kind of appointments and all. And considering the weight of Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta over the years in managing the economy, and being placed at this higher level, in my humble opinion, I think it makes him even a super minister for finance, because the core function of his ministry over the past 7 years, in my view, has been more in terms of dealing with international financing, investments, not looking inward in the country in terms of how we mobilize our resources, how we maximize our productive capacity to create wealth internally to support our financing. It's been more of financing our budget externally. That has been the core function of this minister when he was in office. So it seems to me, perhaps he wants to continue this. If he thinks this position will enable him to turn the corner, as we've been told before, the fact is that, and I don't know how many Ghanaians who will confess or admit that we have turned the corner. The economy is still wobbly, and recent reports from the international institutions have been telling us it's going to take a decade perhaps to overcome. So in my view, these last few months remaining is not going to enable the special advisor or the special envoy to really bring the economy to any realistic level. So I'm not sure what he's going to do.
In fact, you're not the only one who is caught in this confusion, or you, as in